I would like to take a moment before we get into today's main episode and to talk about my sponsor for the podcast. Podmatch is a new podcasting site dedicated to all podcasters. The platform helps hosts get connected with potential guests to appear on their show, as well as allow guests to find podcasts that will give them a chance to share their story. Podmatch offers many tools to help organize your page, from to-do lists to episode planning to potentially appearing on a leaderboard. Podmatch has it all. The best part, you have the potential to get paid. And who doesn't like to get paid from home? I like to. With an easy sign up, you can start connecting with podcasters and guests immediately. I have been a part of Podmatch since the beginning of May, and I have got to say that it was the best decision I've ever made because Podmatch helps your podcast grow. It helps you get connected with people that have very interesting, very compelling background stories that are just waiting for their story to be shared. So if you are a host or guest and would like to start building professional relationships, explore more opportunities, and have your story shared, I highly suggest that you sign up with Podmatch today by going to joinpodmatch.com/lethal venom to start expanding your network in seconds. I would like to give another huge thank you to Podmatch for sponsoring this episode. Now on to our main episode, and again, you can sign up at joinpodmatch.com/lethal venom to begin your podcasting journey today. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Lethal Venom Podcast, the show where I talk about anything I want with the honest to God truth, no lies told. Today, I'm joined by Mr. Mark Burnett. He is the president of APDI, which stands for Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and Dementia Impaired. He learned about all these neurological conditions being cured through experiments at a Japanese university. He started taking the supplements the mice took and went from advanced stage Parkinson's to level 1 and eliminated his Alzheimer's and all. After 6 months of personal testing and consulting with his neurologist, who gave him the thumbs up, he started his own supplement company to provide exactly what he took so that others could experience the same results that he has miraculously been able to be cured from. And today he's here to really share his story about his journey with um, Parkinson's and Alzheimer's and how he kind of was able to find a remedy for it. And he's here to also talk about this new company he's opened up. So, Mark, I appreciate you so much for coming on the show. I can't wait to hear it because, as I told you at the before we started, you don't hear a lot of people that recover from Parkinson's or Alzheimer's or
No,
even dementia at that. So I'm excited to hear your story. So thank you for wanting to come on and share it today.
sure. Yeah, I'm. Thank you for having me, Noah, and hopefully everybody listening will find all this interesting and kind of how I got started. Um, to kind of start from that point, how I got started with this was essentially that I was born on Camp Lejeune. Now, if you followed anything on Google, you'll see all these lawsuits against Camp Lejeune for causing all sorts of diseases because of the chemicals in the water. Because I was born there and my dad was stationed there for 3 years, that was the beginning of my Parkinson's right there. That contamination of the water, which unfortunately a lot of people come in contact with TCE, which is the chemical that was at Camp Lejeune in the water, but it's also used in brake cleaner. It's used in glue for wigs. It's used in all sorts of different, chemical arrangements and things like that to clean things. So there are probably very few people that haven't come in contact with it with one form or another. And the United States finally got around to banning that TCE from the United States in December of 2024. So it's still residual, it's still in places. People still have cans of it, probably in their garage. It's just not marked TCE. So coming in contact with it, breathing it in. Dry cleaners have a 500% higher chance of getting Parkinson's than any other industry, which is a pretty amazingly high number. Camp Lejeune has a 70% higher rate of Parkinson's than any other base the government tested. So that's how I knew I got Parkinson's eventually. But what I went through prior to that was meeting up with a lot of doctors and saying, I'm having this nerve problem or I'm having this issue, and they never could figure it out. I actually had root canals in every one of my teeth, root canals. Okay. Some dentist had looked at me and said, "Man, I've never seen any guy with that many root canals." I bought some on a boat anchor. Okay. And the problem was that these were part of the symptoms of that chemical contamination, but nobody knew it. And of course, Camplogene wasn't forthcoming, at that time. So as I got older and I started to get into my 60s, I started noticing within a few years that I was bumping into things, not getting into things, especially during COVID. But, at that time, I really didn't want to go to a doctor during COVID. It just didn't seem like the wisest place to show up and sit in a waiting room. And I hadn't gotten COVID and was trying to stay away from it. So essentially, when I did see the doctor sort of said, "Well, you either have MS or you have Parkinson's. I'm not sure. I'm going to send you to a neurologist." And after seeing two different neurologists, they both clinically confirmed that I did have Parkinson's. Um, I then went and got, much to their chagrin, they didn't ever hear of this test. It was the SYN1 test, which is a very accurate, 95% accurate test for Parkinson's, in which they do a biopsy in your neck, your knee, and your ankle. And pretty easy to take, not hard, not painful or anything. Now, I'm a guy who, I was born on a Marine base, so I have an attitude. And my attitude's simple. My doctor didn't want to order it because he's like, "I never heard of that test." My other doctor didn't want to order it. So I called the lab and I said, "Can you send it to the doctor?" And they're like, "Well, we don't normally do that, but sure." So I sent it to him. And once he got it, he's pissed off. But at the end of the day, he's like, "Fine, fine. We'll do the test since I already have it." Did the test, 100% accurately came back with Parkinson's. And now the same doctor says, "I think I'll use it on my other patients." Go figure, right? Um, so the other test I did earlier than that, right about that same time, but I did because I was also experiencing some memory loss that seemed outside of the Parkinson's problems I was having, which were tremors, falling down, busting my toes, falling upstairs and downstairs. Neither one's fun. And not being able to do some of the normal things I would do. So I got the amyloid beta 4240 test. What that test shows is more for Alzheimer's, although NIH says that it can also be used for Parkinson's, they believe. Um, and what that does, it looks at the ratio of the amyloid beta that's in your bloodstream. It should be high. If it's low, which mine was, and I was in the red zone, I wasn't good. When that test came back, it says you have Alzheimer's. Okay, that's basically what it points to. Uh, Now, in the basic point is that I use those as milestones. In other words, I was like, okay, I have two neurological diseases, the worst diseases you can imagine at the same time. Um, I mean, it's kind of comical only in the sense that if you fall downstairs, the Alzheimer's helps you forget that you fell downstairs. So, uh, yeah, this is the only way I can put some humor to it.
Well,
You have to have the positive attitude, right?
mm,
That's key. But I wasn't satisfied with what the doctor was saying. Basically, take this drug from the 60s, the L-Dopa, which will replace the dopamine in your body. How well will that work? Will I get better? No. It probably will only hold you up for about 5 years, and then you'll start having a lot of side effects, or you won't be able maybe to use it. And I'm like, "Well, that's not a cure." He goes, "No, it's not a cure. And a matter of fact, the name for that is called the honeymoon effect, where essentially after that period of time, the drug's not working anywhere. That's because the cells in your body that make dopamine in your brain are still dying." So you start getting less and less. Um, so with all that, my entrepreneurial skills of being a database programmer all my life and used to working with a blank screen and having to invent things, from a blank screen, and my father's Marine sergeant, master sergeant attitude of if the enemy's trying to kill you, you kill the enemy. Okay. All came together. And I said, I'm going to do research. I'm going to figure out, you know, what else might be out there. And everything was in the works. Things were 10 years down the road. Companies having to spend $2.5 billion to get approval and all these kind of things and prove their point. And I came across one study where they cured all the mice from Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and dementia. And they used a natural ingredient made in a very particular way, not in the way it had been used for 2,000 years. And that really was my aha moment of, wow, that's pretty cool. But as I read it further, their whole point of doing this was to make a drug. And they were trying to, figure out nature, make it a patentable drug, and then sell it to you for $10,000 a month. They failed. They could not figure out how the natural ingredient worked. And even though it cured all the mice, I still thought to myself, well, I need to get that particular product. And the product actually was something I had never heard of. It was a fruit, and it was a seed from that fruit called Zizifa. Zizifa has over 100 different species or subcategories of it, cultivators, as I call it. It took me a while to get the right cultivator and find it and be able to find wholesalers that I could get it from. I can only get it from a few. It was not seen in the United States that much. Um, I finally got it. I started making it my own way and came up with a way of making it so it'd be pure and that it could be mixed in with yogurt and things like that because a lot of Parkinson's people have trouble swallowing. It's very common in Parkinson. Um, and sometimes caregivers, you give somebody who has Parkinson's or dementia some different kind of food, they'll throw it at you. They don't want it.
Yeah.
So you have to have a way to mix it in. That's pretty important. Um, so I kept quiet about it from January 2025 till June 2025. I took that product and I started not tripping. I started not falling. And at first, I'll tell you, I didn't notice it. When you're normal, you don't notice being normal. You just don't notice it. You just go about your routine and you're like, it took me about a month, 2 months before I said, wow, I haven't tripped lately. I haven't fallen. I haven't hurt myself. And, that's when I started realizing this is starting to work. And eventually I went to my neurologist and said, do a clinical on me again. And they did. And they said, wow, your tremors are gone. Very improved. Are you taking our medicine? I'm like, nope. Haven't taken your medicine in 6 months. I've been taking mine. And they said, well, whatever you're taking, don't stop. Keep taking it. Um, Now, at this point, I hadn't released it from to the public. We hadn't put the company together. Um, right before that, I ran in the Michael J. Fox Marathon in Washington, D.C., something I never could have done. I couldn't have run. Matter of fact, most people have their family members run for them to raise money. Um, and I started the company. I felt very confident I could run in the event, and I did. And at the end, I got a medal at the end. Was all excited about that and proud to show it and happy that I was able to complete that. And people running with me said, how do I get what you have? And the moment they said that, I said, I've got to fire up the company and get the production going. I already had orders. I didn't even have the product ready. I didn't have labels for my product. Um, and essentially, we this is actually what it looks like. Okay, this is the jar. There's two of these, what we call 2X. It's actually made in the USA. I mean, we make it here. We grind it here. And we had to come up with all these different ways to produce it exactly the way I was taking it. Um, and I wanted to go further down with proof. So after running the Michael J. Fox Marathon and doing well and getting people to order it and start it themselves, uh, I actually went and asked my doctor to redo the amyloid beta 4042 test or 4240 test. My doctor informed me that no one recovers from that. Once you go in that direction, that's it. And if you go to Google and put in amyloid beta 4240 test, does it ever get better? And you Google that, it comes right up and says, no, there's no way to get better. Well, I pushed my doctor, he would not sign off on it. I pushed my other doctor, he wouldn't sign off on it. I called 10 different doctors online and finally got one doctor who said, sure, I'll, I'll, I'll do it. I'll get you the test. I wanted to do the same test, do the same lab. I don't want to do it any different. I want the exact same thing to prove to people. I think it's going to get better. And she goes, well, I think it's impossible, but I'll do the test for you. October 10th, it did the test. 10% improvement. I'm the only person on the planet who has been able to move that number using the My Brain Restore, the product that I came out with. So to me, that was phenomenal because before that, having Alzheimer's, I'll tell you one story that was so scary to me. I was driving down the road, going back to my home that I had been to for 20 years, going down those roads, and I got lost. I didn't know where I was. I kept taking turns. And of course, I'm a guy. So, you don't want to press the thing and say, hey, Google, send me home. You just keep driving, right? You're a dude.
Yeah.
you know, and I had that attitude and I kept driving around and, finally made the correct turn after a half hour and got back home. But that scared me beyond any imagination. And it just made me realize that I was reversing all that. Now I remember how to do things. I remember why I went in a room. I remember why I came in, where my keys are, where my wallet is. All those things started to come back. And so I knew multiple ways that everything was working and functioning. Um, and since that time, we brought the product out at mybrainrestore.com is the name and where people can go and I put all my medical information up there. I put my journey up there entirely. Um, There'll be a book on Amazon and on our site. You can actually go to the FAQ and download the FAQ for free PDF and just get the book. It's free. It's a free ebook. And it's about 80 pages. It gets into Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, dementia. Um, and then you can get the product up there too, which what I'm taking. I can share with you also that as people started buying it and I started getting in some forums, I started noticing people that were buying it had DR in front of their name. They were doctors. And I finally talked to one who just called me and said, hey, I'm doing pretty good. I can lift a lot more weights than I was doing before, and I'm working out. And I said, like, you're a doctor. He goes, yeah, but you got the magic. So I said, okay, I'm totally cool with that. But I'm like 10% of the people ordering initially were all doctors. So somehow I got in the doctor community and they started using it. But now it's expanding into people with Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, and dementia are coming to our website. We are literally, a week or two away from being on Amazon. We've already been approved. So we're moving rapidly in all those directions. And I'm thrilled to be talking to you and sharing this. And I think, as you know, Parkinson's and Alzheimer's are terrible neurological diseases. And I lost one of my best friends to Parkinson's. He's a good guy. Um, but he had Parkinson's with Lewy body dementia, and he would argue in front of a mirror all day long to himself. He didn't know who he was in the mirror. It was sad. And I'd go over to see him, and his wife was taking care of him and everything, but she was overwhelmed as a caretaker, trying to deal with all the problems he had. And he got one of the more highly expensive medicines. I won't mention the name, but it was something the doctor gave him. It was fairly new. Yeah, the side effects were horrible. I mean, they were just outrageous. And, it's like one of those ads you see on TV, and the last word is "and death." Okay. It's nothing you want to be associated with.
Yeah.
Um, we don't really have with our product any side effects. I guess because number one, it's natural, but again, it's been part of it's been around for a long time, but it was prepared in such an odd way. People cooked it, they made extracts out of it, and all this. And one of the things that the scientists doing the experiments on this found that when they did that, it never worked on the mice, never cured them of anything. And it was only when they milled it in a particular way, and we sort of came up with better ways to mill it that would keep it very cold when we milled it. That was the secrets of how it was able to work neurologically. And so I improved upon that and used it myself, to be able to get to this point. So that's kind of where we're at. And, I'm very open to, hopefully it's opened up some questions for you, and you can throw them at me and we'll go from there.
So prior to you um getting the Parkinson's and Alzheimer's, did you have any kind of a family history with the illnesses?
Yeah,
when you
I know it's
got when you got diagnosed with it, were you surprised about the diagnosis, or were you kind of aware of like a family history of like, it's possible that this could happen to me?
sure. Actually, it depends on what report you read, but 13 to 15% of the American population does carry that gene that can predispose people to Parkinson's. I don't have it. So I wasn't expecting it. To me, it threw me off completely. At first, when I started tripping the things and dragging my right foot, and I work on the keyboard a lot, my left pinky started, trembling on its own. At first, I just kind of blew that off as old age. Okay, no, no biggie, right? um, but then it got worse. And so when, the doctor said, you have Parkinson's, yeah, that was pretty shocking. On the other hand, I knew about the Camp Lejeune situation, and um, it was prior to the cutoff point of where you could apply for compensation for that. And, it basically, I applied quickly. Um, and even though I was never in the military, other than being born into the military, as I say, ordered out of my mom by the military doctors, um, you know, I didn't know what to do exactly, other than to move forward with my situation with Camp Lejeune. But medically, I was really in that depression state where many people are. I mean, when you have these type of neurological diseases and you realize nobody's got a cure, and even, like they say, you can't reverse the numbers on these things, it's depressing. It's horrible. It's depressing for the caregivers. It's depressing for the people who have it. For me, you know, I had that sort of depression for a little while, but I'm the kind of person who just, I guess I'm not used to sitting still. You got to fight the good fight. You got to figure it out. If there's something out there, I'm going to try it. And I tried all the supplements. Oh my gosh, I went through what everybody says is good, right? Um, but what I started to realize, those supplements are good prior to you getting, you know, maybe Parkinson's or Alzheimer's. They may help, but once you get it, the damage has already been done. Probably they're guessing like 50% of the cells in the brain that make dopamine are already gone. So there wasn't a repair mechanism. That's what I was hunting for. And so when I came across this and started using it, I can't say I had overly high hopes because I had used a lot of supplements out there. Um, and this wasn't a supplement that was in the marketplace. I mean, no one really had it. Um, but when I started using it, for me, within a few months, I started noticing minor things, but then at 6 month level, I was really noticing a lot of good things. So I knew in my mind I was doing better. I could relate it to the number of falls I didn't have, the number of trips I didn't have, the tremors disappeared. You know, it's immeasurable. Um, and I wish I had gotten it for my friend, before he passed away with Parkinson's. And he was in the army. He was a truck driver. Most people don't know that Agent Orange was actually in different states. It was in Aberdeen, Maryland, where he was a truck driver, and he hauled it around. And Agent Orange also can affect people in that way. And they did some testing in Aberdeen, Maryland, and it became a site that the VA recognizes as an Agent Orange site, because it was on base and he was trucking it around, and he had to move the barrels and came in contact with it probably. And unfortunately, he passed away with that in a horrible way. And his wife it was a horrible situation for his wife. It's really bad. But, you know, we don't want to see that happen anymore, and I can't say it's a cure, but I think someone told me, and they put it well, if it makes people 10% better, they'll take it. They'll take anything, to get better. That's the whole point. And for me, the turnaround has been way more than 10%. 10%, yeah, in the blood work, which is great, but from a clinical standpoint, people don't notice I have Parkinson's or I have Alzheimer's. I'm talking to you now, and you're not seeing the shakes that you would have seen just last year. Um, and I sort of kid with people when people bug me. I say, look, there it is, there it is. I'm perfectly not a problem, but I drive with this hand. Both are fine. But when I put that humor to side of it, it does allow people to laugh a little, to understand, and to realize that, maybe there is things out there that'll work. And the great thing is it's a natural product. It's just difficult to obtain and hard to make. Um, if you look at my website, if you go there I think it's on the home page, we actually have an AI photo we had to do because we couldn't get people to stand beside 1,800 fruit pieces that we have
Mhm.
that we use. It takes 1,800 seeds, these little teeny weeny seeds, about the size of a grain of sand almost, to make one jar of this. 1,800 have to be ground down. So it's very labor intensive. Um, but, the good side is the fact that it works. And it's working for other people that are getting it. And I'm hoping that um, I don't mean this in a bad way, but I'm hoping that we can get it to people out there there's a lot of celebrities, out there that have advanced Parkinson's, and dementia and things like this that we're all hearing about in the news, and they also are stuck, and there's just no reason to be stuck, in my opinion. It's this is working, and it's working great for me, and it's working great for other people that have signed on early to get into it. But you got to reach out there. You got to think outside the box. That's all I can say.
What's been the kind of the overall reception you've gained from putting the supplement out there? Are doctors kind of fond of it? Are they kind of against the ingredients that are in it? What's kind of been the overall feedback you've received from the supplement?
Sure. Well, I think in the sense of what you deal with doctors, and one huge place I think it could be used incredibly well is nursing homes. I've talked to a couple of them, but they're all like, well, is it FDA approved? And did you do this? Did you do that? No, no supplements FDA approved. Supplements in the United States are not FDA approved. None are. It's not the way it works. And they stand on their own. If your doctor tells you to go out and buy a particular, oh, you need vitamin D or vitamin C, go to the store and buy it. He's not telling you to buy FDA approved vitamins, because they're not. That's why there's 1,000 of them sold on Amazon. Okay, some are good, some are bad. Um, So I think the biggest resistance is, from doctors to a certain extent, are you know, apprehensive about it. However, the doctor that just did my blood work, who saw the results, was so excited about it. It was wild. I mean, they were like, that's incredible. I mean, that's huge, and they plan to, show it to their, patients and stuff like that. But they would do it just like they do, that every doctor should do, is just say, well, if a supplement can work for you, or it helps you, or it makes you a little better, then try it, because I don't have anything else in my bag to give you. And they don't. I mean, what else can they do? Um, I have a person right now who's been asking me, who spent, well, with their insurance company, 100 grand, I think it was, to get the electrical implants to control tremors. But that person told me, well, the tremors in the hand went away from my husband, but now he has tremors in his leg. So the electrodes aren't really working. Can I take the supplement with it? I'm like, sure. There's nothing that interferes with that, because our product concentrates on what's called the glymphatic system. The glymphatic system was discovered in 2012. And that system is what clears the brain. Actually, it has a nickname called the brain's dishwasher. And it clears the brain. And that explains why I was able to reverse the amyloid beta plaques in the blood, why they increased, because they were clearing out of the brain. And that's what you have to do. That's the key. That's the key that a lot of doctors I've talked to don't even know about. They don't even know about that system. And I agree, it's new. But in May of this year, there just was another article about. Um, I was trying to remember it. I have the article right here, actually. Um, it's There we go. It basically says that scientists discover ancient brain cleaning system that may break down Alzheimer's. Right here. This is May 2025 in SciPost. S as PSYPOST is the name of it. It's huge. It goes into all the everything they did, but they go right back to that glymphatic system being the key. And that's what our product does. It supports that system, and it makes sense, because that's why when they dissected the mice, and I didn't sign up to be dissected, figure out if it worked. Um, I signed up for the blood test. It was the next best thing to say. They knew that those mice had, when they dissected them, all those plaques, everything was gone. It had all cleared out of their brains. They knew it was gone, but they never did this particular test. But in humans that want to stay not dissected, it's the next best thing, because what it's doing is showing that those plaques and everything are moving out of the brain, moving into your bloodstream, where the liver will break them down and turn them into harmless components. And that's the key. And that's what that article right there was just about. I picked that up, found it a couple of weeks ago. And again, it was 2012 when this whole system in the brain was discovered. I think by a Norwegian scientist that had coined the phrase, actually, which is similar to the lymphatic system, which is another part of the body. Um, but that's key. I mean, doctors that I talk to, half of them don't even know that system exists. So it's kind of hard for them to say, yeah, take this supplement, it'll cure a system. I don't even know what it is. And it's surprising me, but we have to keep in mind, in the United States, a doctor has 7 minutes on the average time to see you. That's it. He has two other people in the other room. Okay. And you sit in an office, and how many people are out sitting out there with you? So doctors don't really have time to read all this stuff. They just hand out what they normally hand out. Whatever they feel is the norm, they do. I get that. But when you're at my level and other people's level that have these kind of diseases, you don't want that. You want something that's going to have an opportunity in its least amount of side effects to help you and be at a cost that's not $100,000. I mean, that's crazy. Um, and in today's world where insurance companies are going up on price, they're probably also going to cut back on what they approve. Um, we've got issues with healthcare now that are huge. We need to look at alternatives that actually function, that actually work. A lot of snake oil out there. I'll agree with that. But that's why I didn't bring the product out for 6 months. I wanted to test it on myself. I wanted to be the first mouse, human mouse that, you know, gave it a try. That was my point. And when I felt comfortable enough is when I brought the product out. And I feel good that people have signed up for subscriptions. I do remind them that it took me 6 months to get to that point, and I have not stopped taking it. I got even better, and I'm not going to stop taking it because as long as that system in my brain is cleaning and washing out these things and getting better, I'm not quitting. And I don't think other people will either. Nobody wants this stuff back.
During this whole, are there any kind of side effects to taking this supplement that Alzheimer's or people that have dementia or Parkinson's need to be aware of?
Well, the one side effect, which some people might find funny, is flatulence. And it's essentially gas. What happens is it is a seed, it is milled, so you have to kind of think about it like Metamucil. It's fibrous in that respect. So your body has to get a little used to it. That might take a month or two. And your partner might throw you out of bed and say, "Wow, man, get out of here. You smell bad." Um, Other than that, I haven't had anyone give me any kind of side effect components at all. Um, I think the ones that are the most challenging are the doctors. There's sometimes the people say and go, "Oh, I've never heard of that. I don't know what that is. So I don't know if it's a good idea to take it." But instead of the doctor going and reading and going to our page, mybrainrestore.com, hitting the FAQ and going to health providers, we have a whole section for them. We scientifically show the part of the report in a summary version of exactly how it worked. And I hate to say it, but doctors can be lazy, or they're just tired and they want to go home and they don't want to, deal with anything else. And it's easier to tell a client, I don't know what that is. I wouldn't take it. Just like the test that came out to be 100% right. My doctor wouldn't do it, refused to. Never heard of that test. Never heard of it. It's accepted by Medicaid, okay? Medicare, Medicaid. So it is surprising that they'll pay for it, but yet you don't know anything about it and it's 95% accurate, and the option was the DAT scan, which is 85% accurate according to Michael J. Fox Group. I was like, I'm not going to take that. Why? Give me the good one. And that's when you really have to fight back and fight for yourself because the ultimate thing your doctor's going to tell you, and then I challenge anybody to come up and say where your doctor says, it's all you got. You're not going to get better. It's only going to get worse. And that's just not acceptable. I don't think to anyone.
What's kind of the future plans that you have for this supplement? Are there any kind of follow-up medicines that you would like to kind of publish out there for other illnesses that um, tend to not be really looked over as much?
Well, the future plans are, like I said, we're literally probably days or weeks from getting on Amazon. Although people do get the best deal on our website if they come to it. I mean, I'll give you this right now: is we have a code called ebook 10. It just stands for ebook because I'm publishing my book too about the product. I may actually even giving the book away free to people. I don't care. I'm not trying to make money on a book. It's just to explain it, what I went through. Um, but ebook 10, if they put that in, they get 10% off. They won't get that on Amazon unless we, put different sales on it and things like that. Um, as for going after anything else, at the present time, No, I mean, this has got my hands full, uh, and I'm glad my hands are full without shaking. And you know, I don't have any other plans at this stage. I think this is going to be pretty huge for us and going to be something that we're already getting investors that, are, sort of ringing our bell, so to speak, saying, we can help out with this, we can get you this. And, that's fine. We'll look for the best deal we can, but we're not going to change quality or the way we make it. There's not a chance. I won't allow that to happen because it's got to be made the right way and we ain't cutting any corners. So if any investor comes in and thinks they can do that and want to make it cheaper or want to make it cheaper product, they ain't going to be my investor. Okay. Um, but I don't see anything else. I guess the important thing for me, we have one product. We're going to focus on that product completely. We're not looking to get necessarily, I didn't want to be in the supplement business. I'm retired. I've got, a great deal of time dedicated and put into helping the other people in Camp Lejeune and the other people that are suffering from diseases from there. But it's this was a disease that killed my friend, that would kill me, and I didn't want that to happen. No one does. And if that's all it takes is this natural product to reverse that lymphatic system to do what it's supposed to do, then I will focus on that until everyone that can get it gets it and gets better. I mean, if they get better, maybe they'll stop taking the product and the company won't have, as many customers. But I know personally, I'm not going to stop taking it. And some of the people I've talked to said, hey, once I get this, can I keep taking it if I get better? I'm like, I would, because you don't want that stuff coming back. Because we don't really know sometimes what triggers it. There's not one doctor you can go to and say, hey, what triggered my Parkinson's? What made me get Alzheimer's? I don't know. You just have it. Okay, that's not helping me. I don't know what to avoid. But the truth of the matter is, in Parkinson's at least, and probably also Alzheimer's, the chemicals in the air. I've looked at all the surveys of where Parkinson's forms. If you're around factories, just live around factories, you get it. If you're in any of these industries I already mentioned, you get it. Um, it's one doctor scientist considered it a pandemic because Alzheimer's is diagnosed in the world every 3 seconds. And every 3 minutes, someone is diagnosed with Parkinson's. We right now have a silver tsunami of baby boomers retiring. They're all headed into the same direction. It doesn't matter where you're at or who are or how much money you have, the disease will get you. Look at Michael J. Fox. Michael J. Fox shared one thing one time. And one thing he shared was he thought he got it when he was 29. And so that means he was still filming. Um, And if you look at Michael J. Fox in Back to the Future as an example, you'll notice that he twitches. It's sort of like his acting. And I think everyone thought it was his acting, he would do quirky things. And what you realize, that was the early stages of Parkinson's. Because at 29, he was diagnosed with Parkinson's, meaning he had it prior to that. He thought he got it from movie sets because they would blow up things, they would, put powder in your face, they would throw things at you. And he had no idea what that stuff was. He was just told to stand there and somebody's going to blow up some powder in front of your face. Okay. And he said himself that he thought he got it on movie sets. Makes sense. But, it's, we have to do something and we have to do something proactive. Um, and I don't tell people to stop taking what their doctor gives them, but there's no reason they shouldn't take this and have a way to fight back and follow what I've done. And they'll know in 6 months to a year, because it's going to take that amount of time for the body to start getting that um, lymphatic system working again and clearing, and it does take a little time. But if you're gaining speed every month and you're doing better, that's perfect. And I tell everybody, and we put it up there on the website, before you start taking it, jot down all the issues you have. Jot down that you don't remember things or this or that, and make a scale from 1 to 10. And as you start taking it every month, check that box off. Put it on the refrigerator. Check that box off. Am I getting better in one spot? Is my caregiver noticing I'm getting a little better here or there? It's going to be minute changes. But if you start seeing that scale slide on your refrigerator, it's all you need. That tells you you're going in the right direction. It's a simple test. Okay. Unlike the mice who had to run maze and or get thrown in water and find a ladder, that's what they do. It's a little simpler than that. And I would also point out that it's interesting because the scientists actually gave the same ingredient, this ingredient in the My Brain Restore. They actually gave it to healthy mice. They did that as an experiment to see, well, what happens if I give it to perfectly healthy mice? And they found that they could run the maze 20% better. They could get out of situations 20% faster. So they felt that it was a preventive. So those people that are predisposed or have family that have Parkinson's in the family or Alzheimer's, grandpa or dad or something like that, that it may make sense to take it to be a preventive from ever going into that mode where that system, that dishwasher system of the brain doesn't start breaking down, that it stays up and keeps functioning properly. So it, to use a word here, it's the Drano, the cascade of that dishwasher effect of being able to prevent you from going into that. So that helps that group that's 13, 15% that would have a genetic predisposal. And again, this was pointed out by the scientists themselves. So we actually have a what we call active preventive version, which is a smaller dose of the same exact product. And then we have 2X, which is the version I take for active, um, version, and what has got me to this point. And in the background, I'm testing a 3X version, which is stronger, to see if I can move my blood work even better. Because another thing the scientists pointed out that it was called dose dependent. In other words, different doses to the mice cured them, or it didn't cure them, or it didn't cure them as well. So translating what you give a mouse to what you give a human can be a bit complicated. But I don't mind being the mouse here, going to the 3X that we don't sell yet. But if it works and it continues to move my blood work in the right direction, then we'll put it on the market.
I had mentioned earlier about dementia and Alzheimer's running in my family. My
Hmm.
um, grandmother got diagnosed with Alzheimer's and dementia um, when I was 13, 14, and she actually had passed away when I was 15. So after she had got it, she was um, pretty much there was really nothing they could really do after that. She kind of didn't stay
Right.
around long after that. And so dementia, what it does is that it really changed her as a person. I just saw like a completely different person. It was someone totally new, someone totally random that I had was just not used to seeing. And it was hard to like live life normal with her there because I was so used to
Yeah.
the old times we had. So I appreciate and kind of love that there is now a medicine out there that is or a treatment plan that can help kind of reverse those symptoms and can help mitigate it. So I think that it's a great tool and I think a great thing to have out there. I think it's really needed. Um, if people are interested in learning about your supplement and they would like to buy it, or maybe if they would like to do some more research in it, they would talk to their doctor about it. Where
Mhm.
all can they find the supplement? Where's all the information they need for that?
Sure. They would go, I named it after what it did for me. That's how it got its name. So it's mybrainrestore.com. And as you mentioned earlier, the company name is APDI. So if you go to that rare 4 character domain, which are really hard to get, it's apdi.com. If you go there, they both go to the same website. They go to My Brain Restore website. And I would encourage them to read my journey that's up there before they purchase. Go to the FAQ, learn other things about it, so they feel comfortable. And then my best suggestion is to do a subscription where we autofill it, because this isn't going to be. Sometimes I have people who buy one jar and say, "Oh, okay, I used it. I didn't really see any sort of change." Well, you won't. I didn't. So there's no reason you should. The mice didn't. So it's not something that's a one pill fix, and most drugs aren't. I would point out. Um, to give sort of a idea here where the medical world is versus this supplement, which in my case 6 months worked for me, and then now I'm in my 10th month of taking it and improving. There is 2 cancer drugs that are being repurposed for Parkinson's. Those are typically drugs you see that end in the word NAB at the end. And if you see that and your doctor suggests, okay, well, maybe you should go into this, that drug is a 3-year regimen. It's $100,000 for the drug itself, plus you must do constant MRIs, and it's an infusion. You have to go in and pay for the infusions. So you're probably sinking $250,000, into a 3-year plan, to maybe get better with a huge amount of side effects. Okay. And remember, this is a cancer drug being repurposed. Um, I would say try this first. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But if you start seeing turnaround and you start doing better, first of all, the cost is a whole lot better than that. You're using a natural component. Your side effects are pretty much not there. So I guess for people, they may be hesitant, but they need to read through everything at mybrainrestore.com so they can feel comfortable about it. One thing we do is we answer the phone 7 days a week. We are here from 9 to 7 p.m. And if I don't answer, one of my other people will answer. We don't use AI to answer the phone. If you don't get us, you leave a message, we call you back. That is something I believe in 100%. You should be able to talk to us directly. Call a supplement company. Good luck. And I guarantee you, the people in those supplement companies don't take their own products. um, they may come up with all sorts of things. They just invent and throw out there and repurpose. And unfortunately, a lot of supplement companies, a lot of them, probably 90% of them, put in very small amounts of multiple supplement components so that they can be very safe, but they're also incredibly ineffective because there's not enough of the product in it to actually do anything. It sounds great. Hey, it has 5 of the things I need. But do they really work at that level? Do you think they will? You're taking minute amounts. Ours is 99% of that product is the one ZC5, the one unique cultivator only. The only thing we add to it is a form of it's a form of seaweed that actually the scientists even thought was a good idea to add in because it helps to keep down on inflammation in that same area of the brain. So we do add 1% of that, but we also suggest on our website that people can buy it separately. And to be honest, we use, I suggest Swanson. Swanson's a great company. They make inexpensive products. And they've been out there a long time, I think since the 40s or 50s, so they're well established. They don't have our product, but the other supplements that may help that I still use along with it, and I recommend, combining them in that respect because they help gut health. which has been shown to maybe cause Parkinson's or inflammation. They help with the brain detoxing a little bit, but none of them work on their own. The key is this product, My Brain Restore, is the absolute key. And that's what people have to use, but they have to understand they have to stay in there 6 months to a year taking it to get to that point where they're going to see it. If they sign up for one of the NABs, they're going to be in a 3-year program that's going to cost them $250,000, or their insurance company, if their insurance company decides to pay for it. And most people can't afford it. Look at us right now with medical situations right now. They just, I don't even know what insurance companies are going to do in the future. It's a tough game out there. We need something else. That's the key.
Yeah, the price, everything is so overly priced to where it's like no one can really get the help that they really, really need without having to pay outrageously amount of money for it. I think that
Yeah.
it's something that needs to be lowered for sure. I think it's something that really needs to be um cracked down on, but there's only so much you can do. And luckily for this, I think you're taking that next step and helping people kind of get a firsthand look at making a change. And I think that's really
Yeah.
important. Um,
Well, and,
as
and to add to that, to add to that, and don't forget your thought there. To add to that, I mean, I've had people call me that get it, and I had one lady call me where her husband, she bought it for her husband because she's a caregiver, and she's very concerned that he has Parkinson's, and she's trying to help him the best she can. Like she says, it's really hard for her to take care of herself and take care of him. And then she had to go in for surgery. She called me, said, I might have to slow down on the subscription, because I have my own problems now and I can't afford it or whatever. You call me. Our number is 202-536-5000. Very easy number to remember. 202-536-5000. And you call, and she called me and said, just can you cancel my subscription? I said, what's the problem? She told me the problem. I said, look, let's talk about what you can afford. And we worked out a deal for her that worked into her price range for her because of her situation. She continued to be a subscriber because I don't want to see her husband go down. I mean, that's only more hard work for her. She just had surgery. So, one thing I have is a heart. I understand. I understand what my friend went through. Okay. And he died. And the wife was beside herself. Okay. And she did everything she could to save him. And she couldn't. And I feel sorry that I couldn't have gotten to this point to maybe help, because I don't think this matters how advanced you are. I do get the question like, what if I have really advanced Parkinson's or really advanced, dementia? Will it help? Well, the fact is that they used older mice that were genetically bred to get these diseases, yet they turned them all around. So I say it's worth a try, because otherwise you're just going to continue to go into decline. Why not try it? And if people have a money issue with it or whatever, and they call, a lot of times we'll try to work that out with them. I mean, we're not, it's about helping people. Now, when we're on Amazon, you're not going to have that. You have the convenience of ordering, but you don't have the advantage of working directly with us. But we're open to that. If you call any other supplement company, you're going to get somebody on the phone that might be in another country. Okay. And they're not going to cut you a deal, that's for sure, or work with you in any way. But we will. Sure. I mean, our whole point is to help people get well from this. I don't want to see anybody else die. I just, for me, that's too much. I mean, yeah, I guess one thing I'm involved in every Wednesday, I'm actually in meetings with Camp Lejeune people, and there's 1,000 people in those meetings, and we're talking with lawyers and paralegals. That's what we do every Wednesday, and we're discussing things. And there are 409,000 litigants in the lawsuits against Camp Lejeune. And Bloomberg Law said that the payout for Camp Lejeune from the government to the people who have these diseases will be $21 billion. So it's huge. And to see all those people, waiting so long to try to get some sort of support, in which they'll just get thrown into taking the old L-Dopa or whatever and surviving, but eventually dying from it, this is not acceptable to me. It's really not. So, it's, I'll do whatever I can to help those people. If they reach out to me, if they buy it on Amazon, they just buy it on Amazon. I can't do much about that. And I'm sure a lot of people will as we get it up there. But, they pick up the phone. They'll probably get me or one of my helpers, and we'll help you. So don't worry about that. Worry about getting well. That's the important thing.
Well, Mark, I've appreciate you so much for coming on here and sharing this supplement with me and everything. I think that it's a great resource and a great remedy for a lot of people. I know a lot of people are going to find so much um
Yeah.
help in it and everything. I will put all of his links in the description box below. His website and social media platforms will be down there so that if you would like to learn more about the supplement and everything, it'll be down there for you to find, easy access for you guys. Feel free to follow the show on the socials, Instagram and TikTok at Lethal Venom Podcast, as well as Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube at Noah's Podcast. And as always, listen to Lethal Venom wherever you get your podcast from. I'm available on all the major platforms: Spotify, Apple, Amazon, iHeartRadio, YouTube, Pandora. It is everywhere, so feel free to subscribe so that you'll get notified of when new episodes drop and come out. Thank you so much to everyone for tuning in today's episode. I hope you all enjoyed it. Y'all be safe out there, make good decisions, and I hope y'all have a great rest of your day. See you in the next episode of Lethal Venom.